the Roman Empire. A titan of the ancient world, sprawling across continents, a beacon of law, order, and power. But in the middle of the 3rd century AD, that beacon was flickering, on the verge of being extinguished forever. For 50 years, a relentless storm of chaos had battered the empire. 26 emperors in 50 years, most of them murdered, overthrown, or killed in battle. This wasn't just a political crisis, it was the apocalypse. The economy had imploded, barbarian hordes hammered the borders, and plagues swept through the population. The great Roman Empire was tearing itself apart. In the east, the wealthy provinces of Egypt, Syria, and Asia Minor broke away, forming the Palmyrene Empire under the ambitious Queen Zenobia. In the west, the provinces of Gaul, Britannia, and Hispania declared their own Gallic Empire. What was left of Rome was a bleeding, bankrupt husk trapped in the middle, fighting for its very survival. The world's greatest superpower was fractured into 3 warring states. It seemed that the end had finally come. Rome was dying. But from the blood-soaked soil of the Balkan frontiers, a new kind of leader emerged. He wasn't a blue-blooded aristocrat from the Senate. He wasn't a scheming politician playing power games in the capital. He was a soldier, born and bred. A man forged in the crucible of constant warfare, who had risen through the ranks by sheer force of will and unmatched skill on the battlefield. His name was Lucius Domitius Aurelianus. We know him as Aurelian. When Aurelian took the throne in 270 AD, he inherited a disaster. He had no money, no political allies, and enemies on every side. The treasury was empty, the army was stretched thin, and the people had lost all hope. Any other man would have despaired. But Aurelian was not any other man. He didn't see an empire on the verge of collapse, he saw a challenge. He saw a mess that needed to be cleaned up, and he was the only one with the strength to do it. His first move was to secure the heartland. Barbarian tribes, the Juthungi, the Alemanni, the Vandals, were pouring across the Danube and into Italy itself. While the political elite in Rome panicked, Aurelian met the invaders head-on. He didn't negotiate, he annihilated. In a series of lightning-fast campaigns, he hunted them down, crushed their armies, and drove the survivors back across the frontier. He showed the world that Rome, even in its darkest hour, could still bite back. Hard. But defending the borders wasn't enough. The empire was still broken. Aurelian turned his gaze east, towards the fabulously wealthy and powerful Palmyrene Empire, ruled by the formidable Queen Zenobia. Zenobia was no mere rebel. She styled herself an empress, a new Cleopatra, and controlled the vital trade routes that supplied Rome with grain and exotic goods. She commanded a massive, well-trained army. To challenge her was to risk everything. Aurelian gathered his legions and marched. He didn't just walk across the desert, he stormed it. He met Zenobia's forces in battle, first at Imae, then at Emesa. Both times, Palmyra's famed heavy cavalry and archers seemed to have the upper hand. But Aurelian was a master tactician. He feigned retreats, luring his enemies into traps, and then unleashed his own hardened legionaries to shatter their formations. Zenobia fled back to her capital, the magnificent city of Palmyra, a fortress in the desert, believing its walls were impregnable. She was wrong. Aurelian laid siege to the city. He cut off its supplies and repelled every attempt to break out. The desert sun beat down, but the Roman will was made of iron. Zenobia, seeing her cause was lost, tried to escape on a camel to seek help from the Persians. But Aurelian's cavalry was faster. They captured her just before she could cross the Euphrates River. With their queen a prisoner, Palmyra surrendered. The entire eastern portion of the empire was back under Roman control. Aurelian had achieved the impossible. It was a victory so monumental, so utterly world-changing, that coins were minted with a new, audacious title for the emperor. Restitutor Orbis, the restorer of the world, and he wasn't finished. With the east secured, he immediately turned his attention to the west, to the breakaway Gallic Empire. For 15 years, this rogue state had operated independently, with its own emperors, its own army, and its own administration. Reclaiming it would be the final, crucial step in piecing the Roman world back together. In 274 AD, Aurelian marched his veteran legions, fresh from their victories in the east, into Gaul. The final confrontation came at the Battle of Chalons. The Gallic Emperor Tetricus faced Aurelian across the battlefield. But the outcome was never really in doubt. Aurelian's army was a finely tuned instrument of war, loyal to its commander and confident in its own invincibility. In a single, decisive battle, the Gallic forces were broken. The last piece of the fractured Roman Empire slotted back into place. In less than 5 years, a man who started with nothing had single-handedly taken a shattered world and forged it back into one. The Roman Empire was whole again, but Aurelian was more than just a conqueror. He was a builder. He understood that military victory meant nothing without security. Rome itself was vulnerable, its ancient walls crumbling and inadequate. So, he initiated one of the most ambitious construction projects in the city's history, the Aurelian Walls. These were no mere fortifications. They were a monumental statement of renewed power. 12 miles of thick brick-faced concrete, 26 feet high, with a tower every 100 feet. They were so masterfully built that they would protect the city of Rome for over 1,600 years. Parts of them still stand today, a silent testament to the emperor who refused to let his capital fall. He also tackled the corrupt economy, reforming the currency to combat rampant inflation and cracking down on the crooked officials who had been debasing the coinage for decades. He restored order, re-established state control, and gave the people of the empire something they hadn't had in 50 years: stability and hope. He was a force of nature, a whirlwind of action and reform. The soldier emperor who saved the world. But this story does not have a happy ending. Aurelian's greatest strength, his unbending, iron-willed discipline, would also be his undoing. He was a harsh commander who demanded absolute perfection and punished failure ruthlessly. While this made him effective, it also made him feared. In 2175 AD, while on his way to launch a campaign against the Persians, his personal secretary, fearing punishment for a minor lie he had told, committed an act of stunning betrayal. He forged a document, a list of high-ranking officers whom Aurelian supposedly intended to execute, and showed it to the men on the list, terrified for their lives. These officers, men who had fought alongside Aurelian, men who owed their careers to him, felt they had no choice. They ambushed their emperor on the road in Thrace. The restorer of the world, the man who had pulled the empire back from the abyss, was struck down not by a foreign enemy on the battlefield, but by his own trusted commanders in a paranoid plot. He was 61 years old and had ruled for just 5 years. His death sent shockwaves through the empire. The very soldiers who had killed him, upon discovering the lie, were filled with remorse. They even asked the Senate to deify him, to make him a god, a rare honor for an emperor, and an even rarer one for an emperor who had been assassinated. And then, history began to forget him. The period that followed, the age of Diocletian and Constantine, was so transformative that Aurelian's incredible achievements were overshadowed. His story became a footnote, a brief chapter in the long, bloody saga of the crisis of the 3rd century. He was the man who held the line, the one who rebuilt the foundations so that others could build upon them. Without Aurelian, there would have been no Diocletian, there would have been no Constantine, there would have been no Byzantine Empire, there would have been nothing left to save. He was the true restitutor orbis. He inherited a corpse and left behind a living, breathing empire. A harsh, uncompromising, brilliant soldier who did what no one else could. He saved the Roman world, only to be betrayed by it and forgotten by time. His walls still stand, but his name is lost to most, the forgotten savior of Rome. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story as incredible as we did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more lost tales from history. We'll see you in the next one.